Utah. Geoff Grammer is with us. He does an amazing job covering the Mountain West for the Albuquerque Journal. He's back with us here, John and Jim. San Diego Sports 760. There's a lot to get into. Obviously, the NCAA tournament, the Mountain West tournament, media putting out its year-end awards as well. Jaedon LeDee named by the media as the best player or the player of the year in the Mountain West. But, Geoff, we appreciate your time in San Diego. I just want to start with this upcoming tournament. I mean, we've said this before, but is it true heading into this that this is the most unpredictable of them all with as good as this league has been this year?
Yeah, I think so. I think that you got obviously we know the numbers, right? 7 could play if UNLV plays its way in, if UNM picks up a win or two. What you have a lot of years is what, 1 or 2 teams that we know are pretty good, 3 teams maybe, and it doesn't really set up where all 4 quarterfinal games could be pretty good. And we're talking even the 1 seed against Wyoming. Wyoming, when they get good, they can kind of cause a little bit of a problem. So, 3.5, I guess, of the 4 quarterfinal games on Thursday should be really good games. And I just don't remember when all 4 quarterfinal games, really gave us something to be interested in. And it's going to be great. I can't imagine what a bad semifinal matchup would even be at this point.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best Mountain West Conference tournaments in recent memory, with all the teams that could potentially win the tournament and get that automatic bid. But getting into Sunday here, Geoff, how many teams realistically you think are going to feel good about themselves regardless of what happens this upcoming weekend in the Mountain West Conference tournament to get to March Madness?
Yeah, 4. I think 4 are good. I know Colorado State's on everybody's kind of in enough, I guess, 4 or 5 teams deep into the brackets. I don't think Colorado State's resume is a gimme. They had a really good non-conference win against Creighton, but they didn't do much in league play to really solidify their position in my estimation. And of course, UNM's right, either on the cut line or even outside the cut line at this point. It is a little interesting. So the Lobos haven't been in a decade now. It's been a long time since they've been to the tournament. But coming out of the Mountain West, we all know for a long time kind of how frustrating it is that like power conference schools or the big, the 500 team out of the SEC might get in, and then Mountain West schools for so long we're not getting in that conversation. Now we're in a position where I think people have heard so long talk of the 6-bid Mountain West and stuff like that, and how the Mountain West playing each other isn't hurting them like it used to. Now there's talks about like Indiana State being ahead of UNM because UNM's just a team out of the Mountain West that's, their numbers, they game the numbers and they're all so good. It's almost like the Mountain West is getting the treatment of, their 6th seed, which is New Mexico. Maybe shouldn't be in, but if you look at the numbers with a couple of the schools on that bubble, New Mexico is better than them, and they just kind of messed up down the stretch. And really, the Air Force loss is what's going to cost them the most. But they're a good team that just isn't in right now, so they better play themselves in.
The Geoff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal, with us on John and Jim. I'm glad you mentioned the Air Force loss because I see a little bit of irony, and tell me if you agree or disagree, that there's been this league-wide push, maybe outside of San Diego State, to expand the conference schedule from 18 to 20, so everyone plays everyone twice. Yet what could prevent a team from making the NCAA tournament is a home loss to Air Force. San Diego State didn't even play Air Force this year at home. And by the way, when they play someone like Air Force, it creates a scenario where you're either hurting your strength of schedule, or if you lose the game, it can really impact your NCAA tournament resume. Why is there such outcry in the league to balance out the schedule when it's clear and obvious to see there's at least a possibility by playing everyone twice, it actually can hurt your chances of making the tournament? Look at New Mexico.
Yeah, I think the first point of this is when they unveiled the 20, when they announced it, and the main quote, or the only quote really from the league, is that we're doing everything we can to enhance our chances at more NCAA and all that. I don't think that's what this is about really at all. I think it comes down to two things. One is it's not that the unbalanced schedule hasn't helped teams in the past based on the standings and seeding. It's just that this year it kind of came down to a championship game. And in fact, the last 2 games of the regular season, it was Utah State playing New Mexico, and it was Nevada playing the other game and UNLV, and Utah State played both of those schools only once each. So the unbalanced schedule gave Utah State an opportunity to win this league without going to Lawler. and without having to play UNLV. Those were the two hottest teams down the stretch. I mean, one of them has won 10 of 12, and one of them's won, I think, 11 of 12 or something at this point. So that was what the timing of all this was I think people don't want that for the unbalanced. But what the bigger thing is what you're getting at is the non-conference part. I was able to talk with for a story I actually did for the league's program media guide that they'll have at the tournament this week. I talked to Steve Fisher, and he said from day one, when we were trying to kind of make the Mountain West 25 years ago what we wanted it to become, part of what we had to do was try and get people to pay attention to us and look at us. And here's what we're doing. And the way you do that's in the non-conference schedule. So he admittedly, he said, his words were, admittedly, we at San Diego State wanted to have 16 games. Then they pushed it to 18. We fought to keep it at 16. Now it's going to go to 20. We wanted to go back to 16. We know we can get more good non-conference games that make people pay attention to our league. But the biggest thing out of all this is that it's just hard for Laramie. It's hard for the Pit too, but it's hard for Laramie. It's hard for some of these schools to get teams to come see them in the non-conference, and the budgets don't let them play as many road games as, people just say, well, it's easy, just go play somebody good. Well, UNM should have done a lot more of that. Maybe they wouldn't be in this position right now, but they also have to have 18 home games a year to make their budget, as long as football is losing them money. And to make 18 home games, you pretty much only get to play on the road a couple times in non-conference. So it's really hard for them to I guess, get a really good home games at this point. And that's what part of the decision was too, was finances.
Why'd you vote Jaedon LeDee for Mountain West Conference Player of the Year?
I don't think it was close to me. I don't want to make it sound like it wasn't a second. Second to me would have been Great Osabar. I've never been one too high on the best team for the best or the best player from the best team or something like that. Or the league champion has to have the player of the year. I get the argument, and if it is close, I might lean that way. But this was a year to me that I think there was one player significantly better than the rest, and it was Jaedon LeDee. I think a lot of that comes down to when you see teams unable to defend him. Now, this is controversial because some people will say he gets away with a lot. Some people in San Diego, I'm sure, say that he gets fouled on every play, kind of the Shaq treatment where they're not calling half the fouls. So it comes down to officiating with him. And when I see 10 teams in the league not knowing how to play the guy without fouling, I just see a guy that's dominating the league. And that's sort of, 10 years ago, I covered here Cam Bairstow, his senior season. He was at the free throw line all season long, and came down to basically him and Xavier Thames that year when for the player of the year. But I just didn't see any Xavier Thames on another team. I didn't really see it as close between two players like that. I saw Jaedon LeDee this year not being able to get defended without teams fouling him like crazy, and it just wasn't close.
So what happens tomorrow? So there's a media vote. This is somewhat unique, not fully unique, but in the league, the media members vote, and Jaedon LeDee is the player of the year. Then the coaches vote, which I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the official player of the year award per the league. What do you expect? Not that anyone has seen it, but what do you expect to happen tomorrow?
I don't know that people in San Diego are going to be as happy as they are with the media, which is a rarity. I would expect Utah State to maybe they'll go maybe it'll be Jaedon and one of the Utah State guys, either Darius Brown or Great Osabar. But I would really expect the coaches to sort of rally behind the idea of the league champion is supposed to have the best player or be honored and recognized as such. So I would think one of the two Utah State guys gets honored, and maybe it'll be a co-player of the year, but at best for Jaedon. But in my mind, I really think it was clear. Now, I'll remind you, San Diego State finishes as a 5 seed this year, gets player of the year in the media award. It's not like that's never happened before. Just a year ago, both the coaches and the media picked Omari Moore from 5th place San Jose State team. So it has happened before, but last year there just really wasn't one player that stood out. This year it's clear. There's one player who stands out. He just happens to be from a team that's in the 5 seed spot. And also this is a unique year where 1 through 6 or 1 through 7 rather, you can pick any one of those 7 teams and look at the metrics, and they're all within about 15 spots, maybe 20 spots in Ken Palm and net and all that. These teams are so close. It's not like you're picking a team that isn't even close to the other teams. Like, you could pick a player from any one of those teams and say those teams are pretty close to each other. So I really think Jaedon should get it. I just tomorrow don't think he will, not alone anyway.
Good segue to our final question, which is, like you said, a lot of balance within this league, a lot of NCAA tournament caliber teams in this league. Will the Mountain West get a team, one or more teams, to the Sweet 16?
Ooh, good one. Yeah, I'll lean towards the homer pick and say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just think that this year so far hasn't really disappointed, and it's been good competition throughout. And I think it hasn't just been a lot of, I mean, there is the balance and a lot of good games because of balance, but it's not balance because they're all entirely mediocre. I don't think there's a whole bunch of top 15 to 20 level talent teams on this necessarily, but a whole bunch of in the 20s. And if you play the numbers, I think you put in 3-4 teams, 5 teams that maybe get to that second round, where it's then one win away. I think one of them should be able to do it. So I'm going to say yes. But I'll tell you the game I'm looking forward to most, and that's tomorrow. If that coaches poll says it's somebody at Utah State, I want to see that semifinal in the Mountain West tournament and between Utah State and San Diego State and see if Jaedon LeDee doesn't go for 30.
Well, yeah, I think Aztec fans want to make sure San Diego State's able to take care of UNLV potentially. This whole thing, it's crazy because you look at the Mountain West like tournament odds, and maybe San Diego State's a favorite because they've had so much success in this tournament. Shoot, come Thursday against UNLV, it's a bit of a coin flip. Yeah. I mean, they might be a 2-point favorite in that game heading into Thursday. Jeff, we're looking forward to it. I know you'll be out there because New Mexico actually starts on Wednesday, but we'll see you out in Las Vegas, and always appreciate your time in San Diego.
It's going to be a fun one, man. Thanks for having me on.
Looking forward to it. Geoff Grammer, Albuquerque Journal. It is. I mean, it's going to be, like you said, banner year is what it's been for the Mountain West. San Diego State's been very good, but they're not the only team that's been very good. There's been a lot of teams that have had similar seasons. If you're going to be fair about it, there's a lot of teams that have similar seasons.
And I think it's a credit to San Diego State's run here over the last 2 decades to get the Mountain West Conference to this point.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
And also credit to all these schools for putting all the resources that they've had into making, their basketball teams a priority, right? Like all these schools could be like, it's whatever,
Yep.
It's San Diego State's the class of the group. It's fine. No, they all went out and had a goal of overtaking San Diego State. And it's really shown in this conference how many good players there are, how many good teams there are.
Right.
I mean, all of these games are incredible. And so a credit to everybody in the Mountain West Conference, but I think it starts with San Diego State elevating everybody up to a level that is viewed as one of the top conferences in the country.